end of 1976. And again, we're going to go slowly through it. May possibly said on the day of Yud Kislev, which is the redemption of the Mittler Rebbe's Yom HaGeula, Day of Redemption, and also the day following the Mittler Rebbe's birthday and Yortzeit, which is the 9th of Kislev, which falls out this year on Shabbos. So we're holding over here. We're talking about the idea of Padah Besholom Nafshi that David Melech says and quoted in the Maamar, explaining that the real idea of Padah Besholom, which means I was redeemed through peace, that means that you reach a level of that you can transform a situation and get through a situation in a peaceful way without having to fight an adversary. It means there's no loichem, there's no battle. Like in times of Shalom, where there's so much light, like King Solomon, that there's automatically no enemies. And there's really, the Rebbe breaks down, there's 3 stages. There's dealing with an enemy, like in Avodah, in our service of Hashem, where we have a skafi, we have to restrain ourselves. Means the enemy is there constantly. The need to restrain ourselves is because the enemy, meaning the Yetzer Hara within us, the Nefesh Bahamas, the animal, our bodies has urges towards things that are against, contrary to Torah mitzvahs, whether it's in the positive commandments, negative commandments, or even beyond actually the mitzvahs, but even within Kaddish Atzmecha V'Mutalach, sanctify yourself within the permissible, Kol Techecha De'eyu, etc. And then you have the hisapchu, where you transform that energy that's pulling you towards negativity. But that becomes now a force of positive, but that itself is a process you have to transform, which is the level of hisapcha. And there's a battle, and there's casualties, so to say, yisurim, pain, suffering to get there. The third, the highest level, which is really in time of Shlomo Melech, and the Rebbe says really that's going to be in the times of Mashiach, where there is no adversary, because the negative forces will be taken out. There will be no forces of negativity. Nevertheless, the Rebbe says we have to have something along these lines even today in the Avodah, because even anything that we experience, we're going to experience it. Meretz Hashem soon. The coming of Mashiach has to be connected to our Avodah now. And therefore, the Rebbe says it's the idea of getting in touch with our Yechidah Shebenefesh, because to the essence of our soul, the 5 levels of the soul, Nefesh, Ruach, and Shama, Chai, Yechidah. So the Nefesh, Ruach, and Shama are the internal parts of the person's, the Neshama, how it functions within the person, also with the breakup of Machshava, Dibur, Ma'aseh, thought, speech, and action. There's even the Chai, which is the encompassing energy, the energy that's kind of outside of our, so to say, conscious abilities, but we could dig in that level. That's also part of the build-up of a person that we have, encompassing energy. And there is an encompassing energy of the Nefesh Bahamas, of the forces that are pulling us towards Tuma, towards impurity. So there's still a struggle. The only way to reach absolute a peace where you could be Paideya, you could redeem a situation through peace, is when you get in touch and you're functioning and conscious of your Yechidah Shebenefesh. By definition, Yechidah Shebenefesh, the 5th level, the fifth component, encompassing energy of the soul, is so connected to Hashem. There is no babu de babu leslahu. There is no counterpart in negativity. By definition, it's Yachid. As we explained yesterday, that there's a difference between the Chaya and Yechidah. Is not just a deeper level of, or a more external level of encompassing, but it's a whole different definition. Chaya is the encompassing of the internal koiches, strengths you have. The Yechidah is beyond any kind of you're supposed to bring it to effect how you act in your internal strengths, but it itself is beyond any kind of definition. It's the simplicity of the soul, and in the simplicity of the soul, there's no forces of adversary. The Rebbe says, we can now continue. We could connect this to this week's parsha in Drush Balagiyula B'Teres Chaim, when in the Maamar of the Mittler Rebbe, in his Sefer Teres Chaim, which is a Sefer on the parsha, on Bereshis and Shemois, Alakosiv, on the verse of Parsha Seinu in this week's parsha, that says at the end of the parsha, when Lavan is pursuing Yaakov, after Yaakov leaves with his 12 children, 11 sons, Dino is already born as well. Yashkim Lavan Baboka, that after they make peace, so they build a gal, they build a heap of stones, they come to an understanding. Lavan won't cross Yaakov, Yaakov won't cross Lavan. It says, Vayashkim Lavan Baboka, he wakes up in the morning. Vayinashek Lavan Abulabnaisef. Seemingly, simple story. He's ready to leave. He kisses his sons and his daughters, meaning to say his grandchildren. Vayivarech eshem, and he blesses them. But in Chassidus, this is all Lovin, also in the positive. Lovin is the simplicity of white. Lo even ha'elyon, that's one of the highest levels of godliness is in Lovin. In this world, it comes down again in negative. So there's a concept of Lo even ha'elyon, the simplicity, like the level of white that we wear on Yom Kippur. So he goes, he blesses, which is a way of Hamshacha, he's giving towards his sons and his daughters, which is in the name of Hashem would be Ma and Ban, or in the Midos it'd be Tzon Malchus, right? So the feminine and the masculine, the Mashpia and the Makabel. By Baruch Esem, and he blesses them. Then it says V'yashav love in the Mekaymei. So in the positive, he sort of say goes back up. But Yaakov Holchadar, Yaakov continues with being strengthened now by Lavan, by Nashik Lavan of Vaisav that he kisses, which is a high level of Amshach. We know the level of kissing is a high level of passing over one's love, even in some ways more than intimacy. The Rebbe says this message is an everlasting message. And every morning we say, and bless the Torah. God is giving us the Torah. So anything we learn about in the Torah is not as something of the past, but something that's happening presently. Moving from this is understood. It's not just an avodah in general about the Jewish people, but it's an avodah every day in the days of the life of a Jewish person. We have the Vayashkin Lavin Baboker, Vaynashik Labanav Lav Naisav, Vavarach Esem. What's the idea of Vayashkin Lavin Baboker? Lavin wakes up in the morning. As is explained at length in the Mittel Rebbe's Chassidus of Taras Chaim, the Bechol Yoim, every morning, Yeshno Ha'in, the Vayashkin Lavin Baboker. There's the concept of Lavin waking up in the morning. The Gam Bechinas Boik Mitzadatzmi Bechinas Eisrotz, and that aside for the morning itself being a time of desire, that's why we give tzedakah in the morning. We're supposed to give tzedakah. That's why we daven Shachris, the main tefillas in the morning, and that's why, for instance, we see on Erev Yom Kippur that we try to do the kapparas at daybreak because as the morning comes in, it's an Eisrotz, it's a time of desire. Kedisa b'Zohar, as the Zohar teaches, Alakasav in the verse that it says. The boker erach lecha v'etzaper, that the morning erach lecha, it's like I'm going to extend to you v'etzaper, and I'm going to look forward. So boker the Avram. In general, we have this. It means there's the morning as is, and then there's the addition to that vayashkim Avram vayashkim lavim b'boker. So the morning as is represented by that boker the Avram, the morning of Avram. And in this level, so this is an amazing thing with the Rebbe saying. The Rebbe saying is that the Middle Rebbe explains that the idea of Eis Ratzon, of desire that we have by the morning in general, that every morning brings with it the idea of, and it's represented by Vayashkim Avram Boker. We find Avram also wakes up in the morning. That's why Shachris, the morning prayer, is the morning prayer that's Avram's. Like we learned in Maamar the Torah Morgan Avram. We have to have a shield from the Chesed of Avram in the morning. By that case, that says Vayashkim Avram B'Boker, Avram wakes up early in the morning. So aside from the regular Eis Ratzon, time of desire that comes with every morning, in every morning there's this extra level of Vayashkim Avram B'Boker. What is this? So he explains the Bechinas Lavon. What is the level of Lavon? He says, it's the simplicity of the upper white, which represents the levels that are beyond the chain of creation. So we have the chain of creation, and there's the chain of creation really starts a formulation of an idea. Even in the idea of time of pleasure and ratzon and desire comes down into the planning, so to say, in the process of moichin, of the intellect, chacham bin das, into the midos. Beyond the whole Seder Shtash's chain of creation is the simplicity of Lev and Elyon, the upper white, which means that when you're bringing down a level of revelation from the simplicity beyond Seder Shtash's, beyond the chain of creation, it's not like the Chesed, that there's a light of Chesed that shines specifically in the morning. You're getting the simplicity beyond any definition in the morning. Every morning, he says, Nimshach b'mechadesh b'chinazu. that he doesn't wake up once in a while in the morning, Lavan. Every morning he wakes up. V'zehu v'yashkin Lavan b'boker. V'shevayashkim who has a rezus v'haboker atzmo, that there's a certain urgency. Zerezus means like urgency. That is infused in the urgency of the morning. In general, the morning is a time of urgency. That's why we do everything in the mornings. In the mitzvahs we learn from Avram, we're supposed to do things right away. That's why Avram wakes up in the morning. But on top of that, there's an additional urgency that's represented by love. Like he says, in general, the morning has a certain level of urgency. And that's why, probably, the urgency that people feel in the morning, when you wake up, the tension, getting the kids off to school, getting to your work, getting your breakfast, that kind of urgency, that there's that kind of urgency, that urgent feeling that's going around the home or people's lives in the morning is a reflection from the urgency from Vayashkem Avram Bavoker, because there's a certain urgency to start doing Avodah, starting our service of Hashem. Just like we know that there's a certain urgency in the morning, so too in heaven, so to say, above the Bechinas Boker in the morning, that in general, that's the level of Avram. Like we mentioned from the Zohar, that in Avram itself, we have a higher level of urgency, which is the idea of Vayashkem Lavim Baboker. The Bechinas Loivin Elyon, that we have the simplicity of the wine. The simplicity of the wine is more than the chesed of Atzilus of Avram Avinu, the kindness that's brought down by Avram. It doesn't just come in the morning. It comes down to the extent of a Yinashig Levanav, that he kisses the extension, which is represented by the children of his sons and his daughters, his grandsons and his granddaughters. The Banav of Naisev Nimtzam B'Mkaima means to say it's an empowering moment of love and giving over to his descendants, which are represented by the midos of the children, the way they are in this world. They get an empowerment from love. And all the way to the way the children are below in their space, in their limitations. Like we know the children represented already in the world of Bria, creation, they're empowered by the kiss, so to say, of love. As is it's understood, well, how do we know that Lavan is descending to go down to kiss the children as they are? Because it says he returns. It means he has to go down to the children as they are, empowering them through the kiss, and then he returns to his place above, which is beyond the system of creation. We're not just talking about space, we're talking about within the manifestation of the world. So the more you're going down, the more you're going into the limitations, separation, etc. The more he goes back, the more he's going back to the origin, beyond even the chain of creation, to the simplicity of the whiteness of love. Meaning to say, if he's going back to his place, meaning to say that when before that, when he's in the process of kissing his sons and his daughters, he wasn't in his place. He had to go down into the world of separation. He has to go where his sons and daughters are. And how does he empower them? With the simplicity, which we're going to see. This is the idea of how a person could be Padah Besholom. How could you redeem in peace? Is by being in touch with this Loiv and Ha'elim. When you get this kind of simplicity, it's without any formation, without any design, without any writing. When you start writing things on them, then it's not only is it limited to what you've put into the simplicity of the whiteness, but it also takes away any other possibilities. It's only defined by what's there. There's so much possibility in simplicity, because it's not just that there's no definition, there's also no limitation. So he comes down and he brings that kind of ability to us in this world, in our functionality, that in the space that we are, we're able to get in touch with that simplicity, which is what the Rebbe is saying, is that even in this world, as we are, in the limitations, we could get in touch with this Loiv and Elyon, and that means we could go out there and we accomplish the Padah Besholom to redeem a situation without having an adversary. So he says, and he's going to explain how we go about doing this. And how does he do it in the process? Life is through Vayinashek, through kissing. It's brought down through kissing. It means we know in general there's different ways of communication. There's talking, there's hugging, there's looking. So this talks about the idea of the pigeons that look at each other. There's interaction in intimacy, and then there's the interaction of kissing. Why would someone kiss someone? It's because Lavan, like in the case of his grandchildren, he has a love for his grandchildren. It's an expression of love, not just of passing over, but actually the love, and it only can express itself with a kiss. As we see, even when a father has a single son, which you would say you would take it for granted that there's a love. Traditionally, and most of the times, how does the father express the love to the child? Is through speech or action, giving him something, telling him something. The Abba can, like he explains, it says in Yiddish, the Abba, the love, can sich ausstellen beofen schon. Sometimes the love will be expressed, ausstellen in its position, in a limited way. Like when you say something, or you do something, sometimes you're not even saying the words, I love you, but you're saying something, you're communicating something that from those words you understand, it shows there's a sign of love. Only someone who would love someone would speak like that, would do something like that in action. But nevertheless, it's coming down in a limited way. When the father is feeling this love the way it is at its essence, at its core, there's no words that you can communicate. And how can you communicate this love? That's the point. The only you could do is kiss. And that's obviously in other relationships as well, but he's giving an example of the relationship between father and son, because this is also the relationship of Lavan, how Lavan is communicating to his grandchildren. So here he says, so you're reaching a level where the only way Lavan can communicate this, Lavan alien, is so to say, the simplicity of the wife, is there's no words articulated, because also the idea is too deep, and it's a feeling of love that's so deep, and therefore it can only be communicated through kiss, which again signifies the great love and connection. That's the idea of kissing. He's galus ha'avik moishi batzmusa. So he gives it a definition. What does it mean to kiss? It's a revelation of the love. It's revealing the love the way it is as at its essence, that it cannot be contained and limited and put into words or actions. And he continues, and when there is this communication or giving over, empowering through a kiss, he's giving it to both his sons and his daughters. We're going to see in Avodah what is the difference between sons and daughters. The Inyan Banav of B'naisev, who close in Shalom. We know that Banav and B'naisev represent Hashpia Makabel. There's the female side, there's the male side. So there's basically the whole system of creation. He's empowering the whole system of creation. In general, like I said before, there's the name of Hashem the way it's in the name of Ma, which is the name of Chachma, let's say, or Ban is Bina, or Midos, and the six Midos, or Malchus. Ma is the masculine, Ban. These are the different, the literal translation. Ma is 45, Ban is 52. They represent the different ways you make up the letters of Hashem. The letters of Hashem we all know is Yud Kei Vav Kei. If the number value of Yud Kei Vav Kei is 26, the Yud is 10, the two Heys is 20, and the Vav is 6. But if you were to spell out each letter, Yud Vav Daled is Yud, right? That's how you spell the letter Yud. So Yud Vav Daled is now from 10, it becomes 20, because the Vav is 6 and Daled is another 4. It makes it 20. Hey could be spelled Hey Aleph or Hey Hey or Hey Yud. Vav is either Vav Aleph Vav or Vav Vav. And same thing with Hey again. So there's called Milui Hey. You have the silent Hey. You have the Hey Yud, Hey Aleph. So that makes up basically there's 4 general ways of spelling out Hashem's name and the number value. One of them is 45, which represents Ma, which is the Mashpia, and Ban, which is 52, a higher level, a higher number value, is the Makabah, is the receiving. And again, different letters that are used to complete the letters. I guess Hey doesn't have to be a Hey; it could be Hey Aleph and Hey or Hey Hey or Hey Yud, etc. So it's also the 72 and the 63. So he says Mashpia Makabah. Which in general, the system is Mashpia Makabah. The whole system of creation is built on giving and receiving. Shebezeh is ois gestelt, klal seder shtashis. The whole system of creation is based on the receiving and the giving. The lights go into the vessels. The world of Atzilus goes into the world of Bria. There's always a higher power going into lower power. That's in the system of creation. So when Lavan kisses his sons and his daughters, he's empowering both the receiver and the giver. And in this world, it expresses itself in the ani and the usher. Tzedakah is the whole system of mashpia makabel. Famous teacher, the famous in Sefer I told us, we have a famous story of the Rebbe Rash, when he spoke to the Jewish people, I believe it was Romania, when he was there for Sukkot, he says the idea of tefillah la'ani ki yativ l'fnei Hashem she'ish b'chasicha. He says that what is the poor person saying? That I understand the whole Seder Shtalshel is mashpia makabel. The whole system of creation is that there has to be the giving and the receiving, and in this world that expresses itself by the ani and asher, by the poor man and the rich man, the poor person and the rich person. The ani says, "Why me?" I mean, I understand there has to be mashpia makabel, but why am I the makabel? But that's the whole system of creation, that there's mashpia makabel, and in both sides, he empowers not just the giver but also the receiver, which is a big statement there. But just going to go back on the idea of the kissing. We know there's a famous story that there was the famous Maamar that the Rebbe Rashab gifted his son, the Friedrich Rebbe, Ma Rabba Masach Hashem, that he wrote it for the Rebbe Friedrich Rebbe when he was an infant. When the Rebbe Rashab, in the early years or at some point, could have even been when his father was alive, was learning with his friend, the Paltavarov, and he saw that he looked at his son sleeping, and the Paltavarov saw that he says he's a holy child, and he felt this urge to kiss his son, and he decided to transfer the kiss, but in a Chassidic Maamar. But that Chassidic Maamar, which is also Yechida, again, is giving over something essence. That shows how deep a Chassidic Maamar is, that he compared the Chassidic Maamar to a kiss, which we just said now, a kiss is the way to give the essence. All right, back to the Maamar. This certainly means that love and kisses his sons. He gives over this kissing, this overwhelming love that can't be articulated in words or action to his sons, both to the son, to the masculine, and the nature of the man is to conquer, to be a conqueror. The idea of the giver. And he kisses his daughters. And what's the character? The true character of a modest woman is not to go out and conquer, but Pnima, she's internal. She's the Akaris Abayis. The woman's nature is supposed to be opposite of the man, not to be the conqueror, but to work from within. The receiver. Like it says brought down in the Talmud, what is considered a worthy woman? She does the want, she creates the want, does the want of her husband as the makabel. And into both the mashpia and the makabel comes love. Lamata Yosef means it goes even further down. He blesses them and uses the word. The Rebbe talks about the word eshem, that he says, as the word eshem will be explained, that the significance of that. After they're empowered by Lavan, by Yashkim Lavan Aboker and giving the kiss of the simplicity of the Loiben Elya, now the Mashpia and the Makabel Yaakov, which represents the world, he has to go get the job done, now is empowered to continue on his mission, going back to face Asa. Let's go a little further because I'm not sure we're going to have a class tomorrow. Let's see if we can just finish this little piece here. So what is the Avodah of Yaakov? What was the Avodah of Yaakov? As we learn about in this week's parsha. That what is primarily the work of Yaakov was the sheep. He dealt with Lavan's sheep. But specifically with tomorrow's shear of Thursday, when he has to get the pay, the whole thing with the sheep, the the dots and the stripes, etc. Kislev, which then that year, 1967, fell out on the 10th of Kislev. Arichas Prati Avodas B'Tzoin Lavan Dafka, how Yaakov dealt with Lavan's son. Although that Yaakov, when he comes to Esav, he says, I'm very wealthy. I have sheep and I have oxen, I have donkeys. So he didn't just have sheep. I have Eved, I have manservants, Shivcha, I have women servants. I have Medrash. The Medrash explains that where did he get all these oxes and donkeys and maid servants and male servants and female servants? He was able to sell his sheep at a high price. And he bought it. So the source of his income was sheep. That's means we're going to see that the avodah of Yaakov is sheep. And this is where the Maamar is going into avodah of the sheep. That through the avodah of the sheep, we're able to get in touch with our inner yechida, and we're empowered by the Leiv and the Elyon. That's why he's dealing with Lavan's sheep, and this creates the ability for Yaakov to accomplish Padah Besholom Nafshi. Is because his income comes to the sheep. It's only that he sells the sheep of his income to buy other things. The source of his income is the sheep. Where did he get the money to buy all those oxes and donkeys and servants? Was from the sheep. What was his avodah? What defined and made him? We were parents, broken out to be very successful. Ma'od ma'od, 2 times ma'od. It's from the sheep. But Tzon in the rabbis, he was able to multiply through the sheep. By Deza, he continues top of page 82. By Deza, through engaging the sheep. Not just material. We know that there's a difference between the avodah of sheep and the avodah of shar and the avodah of chamar, as is explained mostly in the Maamarim of Yishlach, because that's when Yaakov tells Esav, these are the things that I have, until he's able to buy also the avodah of evidence shifcha. Now he says, as it's explained in other places, that what is the avodah? That the avodah is the tzon. Through the tzon, he's able to start now with another basic and having the fundamental avodah of tzon, which we'll see what that is in a second. He's able to accomplish other things, which is the level of shar, chamar, evidence shifcha. By there, why did Yaakov tzon dafka nimshach achkach b'berdasik b'moishe kasev ne'asher lavinu asas kol hakoved. What do the sons of Lavan say? Say, where did Yaakov get all this? From our fathers, from his engaging, from what was our fathers? It means the tzon. The bittul means, we're going to learn is that the tzon is bittul. Self-nullification is so powerful. It's not just humbling, it's so powerful, the tool. That everything he accomplished, everything he has, that you look at now, everything, you look at everything Yaakov has is because he had the humility. Because the avodah of tzon is the avodah of the humility of all the animals. The sheep is the humble animal. What he took from our fathers, how he got all this wealth. Who's their father? Is Lavan. Because he was in touch with the inner simplicity of Lavan, the whiteness of Lavan. From the upper whiteness, he was able to bring it into the avodah of tzon. He was able to be 2 times moed. We know that the powerful idea of 2 times moed. The Ma'u Pella meaning not tzon dafka. So what was this whole idea about the tzon? What's this whole wonder of the tzon, of the sheep? Means we see that he needs his income, everything comes from the sheep. And only from the sheep he's able to sell and buy servants. But if you think about it, servants are more could offer more. It's more. I mean, how can you compare what the sheep could do, what a servant could do, a human could do? They speak. And even if you want to compare sheep to donkeys and oxen, how can you compare sheep to donkey and ox? Who has more power? The vote of Yaakov is to go out to the world, but use the power to be mevar, to separate. Shor represents the power of plowing through. The chamor could carry a lot. It's all different expressions and methods of serving, of gathering the sparks of changing the world. These are powerful beings, the servants, the maid servants, the male servants, the ox, the donkey. And you're talking about a sheep. What does sheep do? But we're going to see that that's the only way you can get everything done. The only way he's able to have a proper oxes and proper donkeys and proper maid servants and proper male servants is when the foundation, the source of his income is coming from tzon, from sheep. When we talk with you, if you want to talk about strength, the donkey and the ox, you're able to be more effective. What can you do with tzon? What tzon are sheep? They're good for eating. They're good for wool. What was he able to do? How was he able to be mevar? Where did he focus his energy? Was on the tzon. They had tzon, and only because he had tzon, because he had sheep, he was able to elevate and utilize the strength of the inner ox, the inner donkey, the inner servant, the inner maid servant, but only based on the foundation of Li, that those things came to me because of Kol Asher Lavinu, through the tzon, through the sheep. Right, we're going to stop here. Thank you again very much for joining. We're holding page 5. Okay, 6 pages left. We'll see. Maybe we'll do a class tomorrow, and then try to finish it off by next week before Hanukkah. Have a wonderful rest of your day.